Hello, my name is Josh Slodick, and this is my presentation based on my final research proposal for PSA 310. My project explores how body-worn cameras affect officer discretion during traffic stops, specifically whether they're more likely to issue a citation or a verbal warning when the camera is on. Alrighty, so my thought process behind the topic. I wanted to focus on something that really happens every day during policing. We hear a lot about body cameras being used in more serious incidents, but not as much on how they affect a little bit more common decisions, just the smaller things you don't hear about in the news, like whether to give a ticket or just a warning. And a good example of this would be, imagine an officer pulls someone over for doing a rolling stop, and without a body-worn camera, they're very likely to just keep going. It's not a big deal. But what I believe is, if the camera's on, I believe they're more likely to actually write a ticket. Alright, and my research question and hypothesis. So, my research question was, does the presence of body-worn cameras change how often officers give verbal warnings instead of formal citations? I predicted that officers wearing cameras would be a lot more likely to follow protocol and give out more citations, partly due to the awareness of them being recorded. Alright, so my methodology I approached was a mixed methods design, and I did this to get both a numerical standpoint and also the stories behind those numbers. I created a 15-question survey including both Likert, like the Likert scale, and open-ended questions, and with the end of a follow-up. Follow up with a few interviews just to give more depth. I focused only on officers in Arizona that wore body-worn cameras, just to make the results a little more consistent. I had a lot of challenges. The biggest challenge I had was realizing partway that I was doing just a quantitative survey approach, and it was just not working. So I switched to more mixed methods, and I also had to adjust my sample size very recently. I originally started with, I believe, like 100 officers total, and with 50 of them being from departments with body-worn cameras and 50 not. Something along those lines. I don't exactly remember, but it was simply way too small, and I also had to remove the portion where I was interviewing or sending surveys to departments with officers that didn't wear body-worn cameras, because the questions didn't line up and it didn't make sense. So I removed that whole portion. Let me think. But yeah, I kept improving the study, and each round of feedback got a little bit more accurate. One of the big turning points in my research came after getting feedbacks in the sample size I saw was too small. The Mesa Police Department. There was a study I mentioned about from the Mesa Police Department that used over 3,000 officers in their study, which that was another way I realized that my service was too small, or my sample size was too small, and I needed something to be a little bit more realistic and a little more statewide. It also reinforced the importance of using Arizona-specific context in my literature review, since most national studies overcome how body-worn cameras use and might look different in local departments like Mesa or Phoenix. So feedback like that really helped ground my proposal in local relevance and make it look more practical. One of the research questions I used, I believe, ties it all together and the question is quite literally just my hypothesis, is wearing a body-worn camera makes me much more likely to issue a formal citation. And I believe that question really gets to the overall heart of my research, is what I'm trying to say. And it asks officers whether the presence of the camera changes their enforcement decisions, and if the officers feel like they're being scrutinized, they might avoid leniency even in the low-level situations, like a minor speeding infraction or an expired registration, things like that. By measuring this, I can better understand whether body-worn cameras shift the way officers apply their discretion. And yeah. Oh, and also APA 7 formatting. I kind of just threw it at the end there. I don't know what it was I was struggling so much about, because I've done APA 7 before, I've worked with that, and it was just, I was struggling with that. Alright, final reflections. Overall, I'm pretty proud about how this proposal turned out. I believe I filled some real gaps in current body-worn camera footage research, and by looking into something small but important, which is the routine traffic decisions, I believe that these findings could help the AZ Post fine-tune their training, especially for discretion under camera use. Alright. And the community and societal connection. I believe that this research ties into a broader goal of building trust in the community and police. When decisions like warnings or citations feel consistent and fair, I believe that it helps people get a little bit more trustworthiness with their police and just how they view law enforcement overall. I believe the study could help support the goal through better understanding. Basically, just if they see that police in certain areas are treating things the same as police in other areas, they're going to overall trust them a little bit more. Alright, and any research gaps identified. As I was working on this, I started thinking about any potential new gaps. For example, like rural versus urban departments and how they would handle that differently, as well as long-term changes about body-worn cameras and how it's going to look over the use of several years. These are relatively new things. That's all different ideas that you could dive into with future research. And yeah, thank you so much for taking time to listen to my presentation. I really do believe I learned a lot about such an important topic. And I was able to dive so deep into it. It's such a big topic in modern policing today, and being able to try to find gaps in research and trying to find my own research and what I believe to be such an important topic nowadays was very interesting. All right, thank you so much.